Alrighty, so we got Andrei Arlovski still doing it versus Tom Aspinall. So this is a classic prospect versus gatekeeper type fight. So Tom Aspinall is the bigger guy. He's coming in with a 2-inch height advantage, a 1-inch reach advantage. He's only gone a decision in about 9% of his fights, so tends to get the job done before the final bell. So yeah, Andrei Arlovski, he's won three of his last four. It probably should be four of his last five because I believe he won versus Sakai. But yeah, whatever. 91 of his last 11 have gone to decision, which is pretty. It's a bit of an anomaly in the heavyweight division. He's he's a very interesting guy. How he's turned his career around, and now he's very defensively sound and looks to be very defensive, but also looks to win decisions as well. So it's very interesting. It's quite an anomaly in the heavyweight division. But yeah, he's 42 now, so he's getting quite up there in age. It doesn't affect the heavyweights too much, but still getting quite old. So for Andrei Arlovski in the striking realm, he's just mostly looking for counters nowadays. He won't even go for the kill anymore. Like, even if he has his opponent hurt, he will look to stay, defensively sound, be very cautious. He doesn't tend to look for the finish. Tom Aspinall, on the other hand, he fights kind of like a bantamweight. He's very light on his feet. He feints a lot. He's throwing leg kicks, trying to feint you back to the fence. Once he gets you on the fence, he'll try to look for that 1-2. It's pretty quick. I'd probably say it's his favorite combination. Whereas Andrei Arlovski on the fence, he's purely looking to be defensive. He's not throwing back any counters, so Tom can be pretty comfortable when he has Andrei pinned up against the fence, because Andrei is generally not going to look for any offense of his own coming back. So Tom can look for his shots without too much rebuttal from Andrei. For Andrei, I'd probably say his best punch is the counter straight right. But yeah, generally doesn't throw too much offense anymore or combinations. He just tends to throw one at a time. But yeah, anyway, his hands can be low on the clinch break, so it's just something he's got to watch out for against Aspinall, who will clinch up from time to time. But Tom Aspinall, he's got a few things on the feet that I don't really love as well. He keeps his lead hand low at all times, which can be very dangerous when you're versing heavyweights who generally generally their favorite punch is the overhand right. So, you just got to watch out for that. But also he can lean back with his chin in the air when he's getting pressured, or if his opponent blitzes forward with a combination, he leans back with his chin in the air. We've seen a lot of people get knocked out like that. For the grappling department, I'm only going to go into Tom's for this one because I don't think Andrei is going to want to take him to the ground, but also not sure if Tom will have success taking Andrei to the ground. But yeah, Tom, he's got a pretty decent grappling game. He's kind of hidden it in his career so far. He's got a nice double leg on the fence. He'll look to control his opponent's body against the cage when he's trying to land ground and pound. He'll get an overhook, control the right hand, the side that's next to the cage, and then he'll look to squish his opponent up against the cage and then look for ground and pound with the right hand. And his ground and pound is pretty aggressive, so it's pretty dangerous in a heavyweight fight. If you're going to get ground and pounded by a heavyweight, it's not fun. Also, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, apparently. Haven't seen it yet. Haven't yet to see it on full display. But yeah, apparently. Black belt BJJ. Alright, so how these guys win. For Tom, he's very fast for a heavyweight. For, what's his name? Yeah, there's just not too much tape on Tom, so I couldn't really give you too much about him. But yeah, he's got decent boxing, I guess. But I don't know how that stacks up against boxing of, quality opponents, because he's had a pretty easy run in his career so far. in terms of opponents. So I don't know if his boxing's going to hold up, because it's pretty basic to me, in my opinion. Like, it's, 1-2. Yeah, but we'll see, because this is going to be a bit of a test here on the feet against Arlovski, who has pretty decent counters himself. For Arlovski, how he wins these days, I'm not going to go into how he wins, throughout his whole career, because it's very different to how he wins these days. So how he wins these days, he knows how to win decisions. He sometimes, doesn't go his way, but he does know how to survive and, kind of win decisions, which is unusual in this heavyweight division. How these guys lose, on the other hand. So Andrei Arlovski, he's low volume. He his volume will go up if you put the pressure on him or if you start walking him down. But yeah, just generally low volume. Like in that Ben Rothwell fight, he was landing at will pretty much. So he kept his volume up, and also Ben was putting the pressure on him, so he had to kind of strike to get him off him. So the volume is there, but generally doesn't tend to go to it. Also, his chin, it's done. Like, no way around it. He just doesn't get hit as much anymore, but he can't take shots from, like, power punches clean anymore. He will go down, he'll buckle his legs if he does get hit by a good shot. But yeah, just hasn't shown up recently because he hasn't been versing the most powerful strikers. But then when he did against Rosenstruck, he went down with one pretty much. Also, he has poor grappling cardio. His ground game is pretty average, kind of serviceable. Gets away with it because he's in the heavyweight division, but yeah, pretty average. For Tom Aspinall, we mentioned earlier his striking tendencies that I don't think are great. So yeah, you can rewind that if you want to listen to that. But yeah, he's too comfortable off his back, in my opinion. He can give up a lot of time in rounds fighting off his back. Also, his poor takedown defense, poor balance when defending takedowns. Like, he's a big guy, but yeah, just when his opponent gets a double leg or a single leg, he tends to have poor balance and tends to fall over like a tree, pretty much. Alright, path to victory for these two. For Aspinall, look to cut off the cage when you're pressuring, because, Andrei, he's got pretty decent footwork. He is pretty elusive. But yeah, look to cut off that cage. Look to land leg kicks. Uppercut when Andrei is going to be barreling forward, trying to land combinations. So yeah, just trying to meet him to the punch. I don't think Andrei has too much power anymore, or he doesn't put as much into his strikes as he used to. So I think, just be defensively sound, of course, but still, I think, yeah, you'll be able to get away with that uppercut. Just no setup or anything. So also, if you're having a hard time on the feet, if you're not having as much success as you thought you would, then just look to take it to the ground. Look to set up the big shots when he circles on the fence. So that's what I was talking about before, cutting off the cage and then looking to land that big shot. For Andrei Arlovski, just look to counter. Look for that counter right when he's closing distance, but generally just try to evade and counter on the back foot. So I've had good success betting in Arlovski's fights. I think I have a pretty good read of the guy. I think this is a pretty bad matchup for him, to be honest. I think it's a young guy who has faster hands. Generally, Andrei does have the speed advantage, or he has pretty fast hands himself. But I think what's his name? Tom has faster hands than him. Tom hasn't taken too much damage in his career as much as Arlovski has. His cardio seems okay. So he has kind of all the things that Andrei relies on to win. He kind of has him outmatched on in this one. I think Tom catches Andrei on the fence and just TKOs him probably in the first round, maybe second round. Tom's green, has a few holes in his game, but I think he gets it done here, and I don't think we'll see those holes get exposed in this fight, to be honest. So prediction is Tom by KO. Let's look at the betting lines. Yeah, so honestly, I don't like either of those lines. Tom too juiced for how green of a fighter he is, and Arlovski, I think it's just a really bad matchup for him. Normally, I'd be jumping at Arlovski at those odds in a heavyweight fight, but it's just a bad matchup for him.